Don't get abducted. If people are kidnapped, then you're in a bad situation.
Is personal security a myth? When your life or your family's life is at threat, is there anything you can do? Is the movie taking anything close to reality? Let's decipher these not-so-casual security questions in our today's episode of Not So Casual Talk. I'm your host Faizan Ali, and we are joined by Orlando Wilson.
How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good.
All right, let's begin. I wanted to start off by asking you a general perspective. I mean, it's a very serious topic that we are discussing, and I know that, there's a lot of things at stake when it comes to situations like abductions and, I won't just say abduction. There's a lot more to it when it comes to situation where you mostly are, when it comes to security overall, when it comes to house security, personal security, and there are different levels to it. So can you share just a little bit what are the different types of security measures that you are concerned about and you feel an individual, and of course when you consider like celebrities and all, that's a very different topic, but when it comes to an individual, what are the most important aspects that an individual should be taking care of?
Okay, let me start off by saying I've been in this business now 35 years. And I look to do things, to cut things down as lean as possible, to make things as simple as possible. I'll say the most important aspects of security for everybody, whether it's professional, whoever you are, high risk, low risk, whatever. First of all, you need to do a threat assessment. You need to assess what threats you could possibly be under, be it assault, be it robbery, be it natural disaster. So you have to know the threats to be able to counter those threats. Once you know the threats, then you can start putting plans and procedures in place. For general security, I would say counter surveillance and being aware you're not being watched, you're not being followed is essential. That's the basics. If you're not aware of what's going on around you, you're wasting your time. You can be armed to the teeth. But if you're not aware somebody's watching, following you, setting you up, then all the weapons in the world make no difference, are useless. All the martial arts skills are useless. Then I would move on to wherever you're living, wherever you're staying, you need to have some type of residential security plan. Not just for when you're in the house, but also importantly, when you're entering and leaving the house. Because again, you can have the most fortified house in the world. The bad guys just have to wait for you to open the door, to enter, to leave, or pretext by pretending they're a delivery person or something. You open the door and they're in your house, you're getting robbed, etc. So I would say the three elements, the most important elements, would be the threat assessment, counter surveillance, and residential security.
Is there anything such as a completely safe area?
No, doesn't exist.
Yeah, especially with the days, especially with the. Yeah.
Go on, sorry.
Please.
People think because they have this security, that security, etc., and they're untouchable. Nobody's untouchable. History's proven that. Yeah. Nobody's untouchable.
And I also feel like the more secure you're trying to be, the more in view you are becoming, and the more threats you're trying to attract, I would say.
Yeah, this is where people use a lot of high-profile security. And again, if I'm a bad guy, I'm just going to watch. And you've drawn my attention to say, why do you need that security? Are you a criminal? Are you under threat? Do you have valuables? So again, you're just going to draw my attention, and it's a matter of time before your security lapses. A lot of people don't have 24-hour security. Or if I really want to target you, then I'll get somebody to work for your security team. That's it.
Yeah. What is the main like nowadays, especially with the type of situation geopolitically going on, I feel like there's much more stress on everybody. And when it comes to stress, there's financial issues in individual countries coming in. And whenever there's financial issues coming in, the country is exposed to more threats which are security based, especially when it comes to USA and all. We've seen that even in like shopping malls, being
Yeah.
like people just raiding and just stealing everything, and there's nothing you can do about it. In situations like this, like especially now, like what can an individual do when they know that they're not protected? You know?
Look after themselves. And this is a sad thing in places like United Kingdom, well, some states in the US, where if you've got a business, people can come in and rob your business. There's nothing you can do about it. In UK, you're virtually defenseless, even though they have use of force laws. If you hit somebody that's trying to steal your property, then you can end up on a higher charge than they are. Yeah, for theft, you end up on an assault charge. In US, in some states, you can still shoot people, but again, it has to be justified, etc. And you're getting yourself into a lot of trouble over nothing. Sadly, in those places, there's not much you can do apart from make yourself a hard target. It's very, very difficult for business people in those areas. You call the police take a long time to turn up. You hire security guards, the security guards can't do anything. It's somehow making yourself a hard target. But again, if you're running a retail type business, it's very, very difficult. I'm surprised, and again, that's not really my sector. I think you can see crime is going to be getting worse, but a lot of the criminals are moving over in towards cybercrime. Virtual kidnappings, virtual extortion, sextortion is big, is huge. And that's the type of scams where they catch people online, they get them to ask them to send personal pictures, etc., and then they start extorting them. That is going to be, I see that to me from a criminal perspective is a lot more easier money than going and robbing shops. That's low end. That's basic. As far as kidnapping is concerned, there's plenty of examples of virtual kidnapping. There's a major issue with that amongst the Chinese community, where people are threatened online, they end up kidnapping themselves, etc. In Latin America, that's also happened.
What actually is categorized in virtual kidnapping? Like, what are what would you categorize as virtual kidnapping?
A virtual kidnapping is where you can receive a phone call saying your husband, wife, son, or daughter has been kidnapped and you need to pay X amount of money. And a lot of people, if they can't reach out to their relative or friend that's been kidnapped, the first thing they're going to do, they're going to panic and they're going to pay. There's been a lot more elaborate cases where there was one recently in the US, a Chinese national. And again, I've heard this out of Latin America, where you can be staying in a hotel room, you can be staying in one place, you get a phone call, and you're threatened. You're being watched, you're being followed, you need to go to this location. Once they go to that location, they get another phone call saying, okay, you're being watched, you're being followed, we're going to kill you, we know your family, we know this, we know that, and you need to start paying us money. And a lot of people, if they're afraid, will start paying money. Especially, and again, a lot of the people, this can be sporadic. I've heard it happen to people staying in the hotels in Mexico. They get a call through the hotel phone, and then it starts. A lot of times I expect the kidnappers are getting these people's personal information from the hotel staff. Or where it's targeted, the criminals are doing their research on somebody via social media to identify their friends, their family, and everything else. So they have the story to say, okay, your mother's going to be kidnapped at this time. We're going to do whatever to your family members unless you pay us this amount of money. And a lot of people, especially these days, get afraid and they start paying.
Yeah. What do you think about these laws, for example, the gun law?
I think everybody should have the right to own firearms and everybody should have the right to self-defense. And again, this comes down to, it's the best definition for this, the best medium for this is, as long as you can pass the local police qualifications, then you should be able to carry firearms. Again, you have to have the proper criminal background checks, etc., psychological checks if necessary. But again, I think responsible people should be able to carry firearms as long as they can pass the same test that the police have to test. I don't see any difference. People should have the right to self-defense.
Do you know any like a percentage of panic killing and actual killing? Do you
What do
have
you
any
mean?
rough idea? Because I know like there were a few cases where somebody panicked because they were afraid of their life and they killed somebody else.
Look at
So
US police shootings.
yeah,
I would say a lot of the US police shootings are put down to being racially motivated. I think a lot of the police shootings in the US are due to the police not being that well trained and panicking. There was a video recently put out on social media, and it was an actual case where an acorn fell off a tree and landed on a car next to the cop. And the cop pulled his gun out and started shooting, and his partner started
Just
shooting at
randomly.
us randomly.
Wow.
I put something out yesterday. A cop told somebody to get down on his knees because he was going to be searched. As the guy's getting down on his knees, he was just shot by the cop. So I would say the biggest threat in the US is police shootings. Seriously. Police in the US with guns are trigger happy. Whereas if you're an armed civilian in the US, you have to comply by the laws 250%, because if you are involved in a shooting and it's not justifiable, you're going to jail for a long time and most probably getting how many lawsuits slammed on you. Police tend to get away with things.
Do you think that the amount of laws and regulations and things that they have already placed, it's making life much more difficult than easy?
I'm all for minimal law. I think people, again, you need to have laws in place, but the laws need to be enforced. The trouble is when you look at places like United Kingdom and the crimes going through the roof there, the laws are not being enforced. Laws need to be strictly enforced. If you're a criminal, there should be no sympathy. There should be, okay, you might get one chance, but if you make the mistake twice, then they need to lock you up and throw away the key. That's it.
Let's come back to the comparison between a normal person and a celebrity. I know the situation is very different. And a lot of high-profile celebrities, they have their own personal security 24/7. Even with that, I mean, I've worked in football industry, so I know a lot of footballers who are not even big celebrities, their house being raided all the time. And they are somewhat used to being like robbed for small things. But when it comes to family security, threat of life, things like this is much more severe. How do you see the security for high profile celebrities, not just footballers, in general celebrities? They could be politicians. I believe that for politicians, it's a completely different area when it comes to celebrities like footballers or musicians and all. But the threat level is there. So how do you see that?
With all security programs, and this is where a lot of people miss out because they think just hiring bodyguards, close protection personnel, that's going to solve the problem. The trouble is a lot of the people in the close protection business, the bodyguard business, are liabilities themselves. They're not that well trained, etc. And I know issues of people hiring bodyguards. They might as well, you're better off a lot of times hiring criminals because you're hiring people that's just BS'd to get the, seriously. These criminals can look after themselves. They've hired a bunch of people that have got glossy brochures but couldn't protect themselves, let alone anybody else. The thing is with celebrities and politicians, there needs to be a constant update on their, what I said earlier, the threat assessment, etc. And they need a management or a security manager that can adapt the security team to the different situations. And you have to be able to read the situations to what's going to be a major threat, what's not a major threat. If you have, and again, a lot of celebrities and high profile people don't have bodyguards, but it would help if they had personal security training, their families had personal security training, and they had somebody overseeing their schedules, their routines to say, look, you're going to this place, it might be a little bit dangerous, so we'll assign you a security person for today. Or if they're going to a major function, then they might need more security. Again, as far as residences are concerned, then the residences need to be assessed. If they're hiring drivers, then the drivers need to be properly vetted, need to be properly trained. If the children are going to school, then the security at the school needs to be assessed to see if it's good, bad, etc., etc. So a lot of it is assessing the risks and not just thinking we'll hire security guards. And a lot of people go to some of the major security guard companies that give them a big sales pitch and supply them with people that's on a little more than minimal wage if they're lucky. And if I've got nothing against people earning a living. So these security guards are doing the best as they can, but what do you expect somebody to do for minimal wage? To die for you? Yeah?
Of course not. They won't. Nobody would.
But this is what people expect. We've
Yeah.
got security. But
Yeah.
what security do you have? Is it going to protect you, or is it more of a liability?
Yeah.
Or are your security people actually working with the criminals and giving them information on where you are, what you're doing, how to get into your house, where's your family going, etc., etc.?
In your experience, is it more often than not that people are you actually have an inside man?
A lot of the first, put it this way, if there's an incident in a lot of places, the first people that the police are looking at are the security team. And I would say that's the first place to look. Because again, there's how many stories, even in the close protection world, especially if you look through history, of how many people have been assassinated, robbed, and attacked by their security people because their security people are disgruntled. Yeah, they treat them bad, they don't pay them enough, etc. So if you're making minimum wage, why not sell the client to somebody for a little bit more money? Makes sense, right? From a criminal's perspective, from a business perspective.
You have your own business of training security guards and everything as well. So what I know, what little I know, is that a lot of these security guards, they are ex-military forces, or they have some sort of experience in armed forces of their own relative countries or even
Mm-hmm.
outside countries. But the terrain and the type of work that they are now going to be doing, I believe, is completely different.
Yes.
Securing a person, securing a house, probably infiltrating a region is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
The aspects that you have to look for are completely different. How long is the training for an average security guard to leave the space that they were in and coming into this new form of, you can say, area of work, and going through with a complete change of mindset?
Some people can do it and some people can't. And this is where I'm very wary of people that's been in the military for too long because they're too institutionalized. And some of them just can't get that out of their mindset. Yeah, the trouble is with the close protection business is that diverse. With the security business, it's that diverse that you need to be flexible because you're dealing with different cultures, different environments, people from different social backgrounds. You need to be able to adapt and you need to be flexible. As far as the training is concerned, as far as training courses are concerned, my courses, when I was doing the CP courses in US, a 4-day introduction, an 8-day longer course. You cannot train somebody in that amount of time. So I tell people on my courses, all we're doing is giving you guidance. You need to go away and apply what you've learned and gain experience. The UK has, I think it's a 140-hour course for close protection license, and it's complete and utter BS. I've been in this business now over 35 years. I'm still learning. So what I look for in people, I look for people that are willing to learn and constantly learn. So how long would it take to train somebody? A lifetime. Because you need to be able to have that mindset where you're constantly learning from different environments, different situations, and you're willing to constantly upgrade your skills. So this is where, and I was going to do a video about this, people saying we need to standardize training. The big problem in, say, the United States, where there are licenses, security licenses, UK, is people will do the minimum standard and then they'll think they're trained. That's your introduction. That's where you start, and that's where you start training.
This is just what I'm thinking. Is it more safe for a person, for example, like if I'm a celebrity, is it more safe for me to have one team which has been working with me for a very long time, or change my teams over the passage of time? Because I'm not sure like which one is better, because the longer the security team has been working with me, I believe maybe I can bond with them and build some sort of a trust. But at the same time, they know much more about me than I know about myself. So it can become a security threat myself for me as well. Um, I'm not sure whether I'm building trust or not, because you never know about a person. But when you are changing teams more often, that could also mean that I have to redirect my whole training with the same with another team for the same purpose as well. Which one is better?
From a management perspective, and this is one thing people screw up with on in the close protection world, you have to have set boundaries. The clients are not your friend. They're clients. It's a business arrangement. And I know jobs. I was on one job in London a long time ago for an Arab royal family. There was an issue with the day shift. Luckily, I wasn't there. And the client ended up firing the whole day shift, even though they thought that this lady liked them. Pack your bags, go, because she had an argument. Well, one of the guys was disrespectful to her, and she rightly fired him, but also got rid of everybody else that didn't do anything wrong. They got, in their minds, they thought that the client liked them, and they become familiar. Where the client is used to, again, wealthy people, they're used to having servants. They see the security team as just staff. So this is where there has to be boundaries. From a management perspective, I wouldn't want my people, and I've had problems with guys in the past that's got too close to clients. And again, they thought the client liked them, etc. One of the issues from a contract security perspective is the guys will try to work for the client and cut you out the deal, which usually goes bad anyway, because clients like that end up cutting prices, and if they'll screw over one guy, they'll screw over somebody else for a cheaper price. The trust issue. Yes, it's okay if you have people coming in and there's a good relationship and you build up a good relationship. But again, you need to understand it is business. Yes, if there's loyalty and everybody's happy, then things can possibly work out with one team for a long time. But again, as we said before, there's been so many cases of where the security team has betrayed the client because one day they have an argument. They have a lover's tiff all of a sudden, and everybody hates each other. So this is where there needs to be strict boundaries, strict rules, strict regulations. It is a business, not a friendship. One of the issues is I've seen with clients, a lot of clients treat their security people like dirt, which causes friction to start with. There's people over the years, I've walked off jobs. There's people I wouldn't work for because they've been disrespectful and I don't need that. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Keep your money. So again, if people are used to treating their security team like dirt, then don't be surprised if they sell you out to the criminals. Yeah. So it's one of those things. It depends on the people involved. And this is where I said the close protection business is a very personal business. There has to be good relationships. There has to be good communications, or else things just aren't going to work. There has to be mutual respect on both sides.
You mentioned about sex trafficking before as well, and sex slave or virtual sex.
Sexting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sexting, whatever it is. Can you elaborate a little bit more, like, because you said that it's a big business nowadays, especially. I'm sure like the amount of you can say like freedom that a lot of countries have now given to social media when it comes to public display is also one of the reasons why a lot of people get caught up in this, because this is a virtual business as well when it comes to, like, for example, OnlyFans, or even in a lot of Instagram, Telegram profiles. It's a big business. Yeah. Maybe some of them it's a closed business, some of them it's a much more open business, but it is a big business. When it comes to situations like this, how can how can you secure yourself if you are one of those individuals?
I generally tell people, as far as the internet's concerned, don't talk to strangers. That's it.
But that's their job.
Online, if you don't know people, don't communicate with them. On any social media, if people approach you, don't communicate with them unless you can verify who they are. Yeah? Don't go, as far as your devices are concerned, don't keep anything on your phones, anything on the internet that could compromise you. Do not keep indecent pictures on your phones. Nothing. Anything that's on the internet, anything that's on your phones, your computers, treat it as public information. Because if you get hacked, everybody can see it. There was a big scandal recently. I think some members of parliament in the United Kingdom resigned because they were caught up in a sextortion, a sexting scam, where they were exchanging naked pictures, sexual pictures with somebody they met or something. Okay, to me that's stupid, especially from adults. Yeah, especially if you're in a position of responsibility. If you're into voyeurism and that's your thing and you get off on that type of stuff, go enjoy, etc. If you're a responsible person, then you should not be doing that. You should not be sending naked pictures or sexual pictures to anybody. You should not be receiving them. This is where, again, the big threat from that is if the people sending you those pictures or people who they're sending pictures to are underage, then whoever's receiving those pictures or sending those pictures is in a big world of dirt, to put it politely. So this is where, to me, it's complete stupidity. Don't do it and you won't have problems. If you start exchanging naked sexual pictures with people, expect problems, even if you know who they are. And I think now in some countries they call it revenge porn, where boyfriends, girlfriends are exchanging pictures. they split up, and all of a sudden those pictures are put up online. Yeah, that is illegal in some places because, again, it causes big, big problems. So again, basic rule, don't do it. If you get involved in that, and I know people that's been stung with sextortion, it's a very, very, how can I put it, messy business. To solve it, a lot of it is unsolvable because a lot of the criminal gangs that's doing it is they're not asking high amounts of money. The money's paid in wire transfers or Western Union transfers to third world countries,
And now
or
Bitcoin.
now Bitcoin, or other cryptocurrencies. And I know somebody that was stung for a lot of money. Again, they were stung in various cryptos, and the wallets were closed as soon as the money went into those wallets. So yes, cryptocurrencies can be traced, but it's extremely difficult to trace, and generally that's a job for law enforcement. And law enforcement has better things to do than chase up somebody's naked pictures.
Yeah. One of the hottest topic has been lately about the underage child abductions from Mexico to USA, and there's been a few movies about that also, and a few big names are involved in that. When a situation like this happens, if let's say if I am one of the parents, what can I do?
It's a mess.
So
This
I
is
mean,
where the whole, if we're talking about the Mexico situation and trafficking and sex trafficking, there's that many children, women that's disappeared, who knows? It's the same situation in Europe at the moment with, and again, people are in denial about this, with the refugee immigrant crisis in Europe. Nobody knows who's in Europe. Nobody knows where these people come from. Nobody knows who's disappeared. Nobody knows who's been sex trafficked, had their organs taken, etc. There's a lot of people just disappeared. So it's a big mess. And the sex trafficking gangs, organ harvesting gangs, the Turks have just busted an Israeli organ harvesting gang in Turkey. It happens. So this is where it's there's not much you can do. From a missing persons perspective, and again, I used to get asked this a lot by Americans for some reason, where their kids are going into Europe or wherever. They watch too many movies. And they said to me, what can we do? Is it safe? For most people, yes, it's safe. But if a teenager, somebody in their early 20s went missing in Europe, an American, let's say, and American law enforcement does take things a little bit more seriously than most. An American in their early 20s goes missing in Europe. What's US law enforcement going to do? Nothing. For that person to be reported missing, the family would have to go to the police, or they'd have to go to FBI. And most countries, if somebody goes missing, they're going to think, okay, they're off partying, they just don't want to talk to their family, there's an issue, etc. Maybe they might put out an alert for people to be on the lookout for this person. Maybe they might send somebody to their accommodation if there's enough pressure. And if the person's not there, there's nothing they can do. So the person can literally disappear without trace. If a body's found, no worries. Such is life. Somebody contacted me a while back about some children that went missing in France, a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old. They left home in Europe and went to France. Again, this was some online love story. Crazy story. But again, you're dealing with children. The 14-year-old girl was found in some bad Paris neighborhood when she approached the police and said, okay, I'm lost. The police found her. What happened to the 16-year-old? I've got no idea. 2 girls. But again, once they get in there, they can be trafficked, they can be drugged, raped, whatever. And again, law enforcement does not have the resources to go looking for missing people.
what about a PI? Can they help?
But that's going to cost a lot of money. A lot of money. And again, this is where what you have to go on. In that situation, to say there's 2 missing children in Paris is like, where do you start? You fly to Paris. Again, the family knew they got tickets to Paris. I think they went via the Eurostar, etc. Okay, where are they in Paris? You cannot pull, the law enforcement, if they're motivated enough, can pull the CCTV cameras, etc. But again, how long is it going to take to scan through CCTV cameras to try and trace these kids? Can it be done? Yes. AI could be a huge help in these situations. But again, the police generally aren't going to take that seriously. And from the private sector, you're not going to have access or be given access to every CCTV camera throughout Paris.
How long does how long does the government have to wait before they start searching? I know like in a lot of movies they give like a random time, like until 48 hours they can't search, they could be anywhere or something like that.
Generally, they're not going to search. This is the thing. If it's a young child, maybe. But as far as there's a big thing in the US, I'm not sure if they still do it, the faces of missing children on milk cartons, because there's that many missing children. And it's generally, okay, if somebody's a teenager, then they're going to run away from home. They don't want to go home. And this is where a lot of kids in the US and a lot of kids in a lot of places get involved in the trafficking, get involved in sex trafficking, they get drugged, etc., because they leave home, voluntarily leave home, and then get involved in whatever. So again, there's cases where police have found children, and because the child is of the legal age, let's say 18, 19, they could be a drug addict, they could be in with the wrong company, they could be getting abused, but they don't want to go home because they're caught up in their criminal world and their mind's screwed up on drugs, alcohol, etc.
And law enforcement will generally put everybody in the same category, right?
Yes.
Because they don't know the person. So because most of the cases are runaways, so they will just
Yes.
categorize everybody in runaways.
Yes.
So the only choice for parents is to hire a PI at
Yes.
best.
At best. And again, then it's going to cost a lot of money. And if there's not much to go on, there's not much to go on. To go and start trawling and looking for somebody in somewhere like Paris, yes, you need the local contacts, etc. It will cost a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of money.
So basically, if parents are helpless, what kind of a law-abiding citizen they are, right?
This is what people don't realize. And I say this to people all the time. Most people are very, very lucky, but this happens a lot more than people give it credit for. It happens a lot. I would say when I was in the US, people saying to me about children going to Europe and being kidnapped. I would say, and being sold into sex trafficking. I would say there's enough refugees and undocumented people that the criminal gangs do not have to target legal tourists. But legal tourists being drugged, robbed, raped, that is a big problem short term. Like the express kidnapping, where somebody will be taken, somebody will be drugged, raped, abused,
even to
robbed,
extort money, I believe.
Say again?
Even to extort money, because if he's a tourist, then he probably has money. His family is much more financially stable than a refugee. Refugee, I believe, could be abducted for maybe organ harvesting or things like this. But for a person who is a tourist, they are probably coming from a very well financially stable family.
There's one drug out of Colombia, scopolamine. They call it dragon's breath. And this has been used through, I know people this has happened to within Latin America. What it does is make the person compliant. They can't remember everything, but they're compliant. They do as they're told. In those type of situations, the people are drugged, they go, they have their bank accounts emptied, they go to their apartments, get everything taken out of their apartment, etc., etc., etc. And then they're dumped or killed. The drugs are out there. And I'm surprised that drug has not been... I come across the same stuff in West Africa. Haitians have the same type of stuff, scopolamine. I'm surprised that drug has not become more mainstream. But again, from the express kidnapping perspective, this is where a tourist is picked up. Yes, they can be robbed, raped, etc. Tourists are ideal for that because they generally have valuables on them. And I remember doing a class, again, United States, and I said to the people one of the guys in the class, what do you travel with? He's like, nothing. Okay, I said, what do you take with you? I don't take much with you. You take your laptop? Yeah, there's $1,000. You take your phone? Nearly $1,000. I said to him, you always wear your watch? Yeah, he's wearing a Rolex. It's a cheap Rolex, but it's still $5,000 or $6,000. Yeah? And I said to him, okay, well, that watch, even if they get 50% for that, that's a good month's pay, good few months' pay in a lot of countries. Plus all the other stuff you take, plus if they make you max out your credit cards, do this and that, somebody can live pretty good for 6 months just off what you're traveling lightly with. But this is what a lot of people don't understand.
Let's say in that case, if I am abducted, what's my best scenario? What can I do? How can I prepare myself before being abducted, like right
Don't get
now.
abducted. Don't
Hmm?
get abducted. If people are kidnapped, then you're in a bad, bad situation. The main thing is don't get kidnapped. Put it this way, if it comes down to you being ransomed, have you got the money available to pay the ransom? Do your family have the money available to pay the ransom? And just because ransoms are paid, it doesn't mean the person's going to be released. I know examples where people have died during the kidnappings, had heart attacks. I know examples where ransom has been paid and the bodies have turned up, or nothing's been heard. The last one, long story another time. I got contacted by people after everything was paid, and there's nothing we can do about it anyway. But they paid a ransom, and that's it. The kidnappers disappeared, and that's it. So this is the thing: do not get kidnapped. People think, oh, they watch the movies, kidnap and ransom insurance. As I said, even if a ransom is paid,
There's
you
no
might not
guarantees.
turn up. And again, the main aim is don't get kidnapped in the first place, because if you get kidnapped, you're in a very, very bad situation. If you have kidnap and ransom insurance, it's an insurance policy. The insurance companies will be looking for every way possible not to pay that ransom, not to pay that insurance. And at best, they'll send out a consultant that will try to negotiate. With who? In most cases, in a lot of countries, if you start dealing with kidnapping gangs, then you can end up in a lot of trouble because you're dealing with terrorists, you're dealing with organized crime, and you can be charged yourself for that. If you pay ransoms, that can be looked upon as you're financing terrorism, financing organized crime, etc. So it's a very, very, very messy situation. So if you're kidnapped, you got
Bye
big
bye.
problems. So I'm not going to help you.
So bye bye. This is, I would say, like, to be honest, like when before starting the conversation, I was hopeful that I would have some sort of positive feedback that I can secure myself before I travel to Turkey. But no,
Yeah,
I feel,
it's all about prevention, and this is what people don't get.
yeah,
By having the simple plans in place, by doing your assessments, by being aware of your situation, by knowing where you're going, by making sure your accommodation's secure, you're not going to any questionable places. You're making sure you're not being watched, you're not being followed. Yes, you can avoid the problem. But generally, it's the people that think, and I know, I know one case in Haiti where a few people were kidnapped in one go because the security guard opened the front gate to the kidnappers. So yes, these people had security, but the security was completely incompetent. In that one case, the main client's police bodyguard decided to go home early that one day. Was he involved in the kidnapping? I would say yes. So this is where you have to be constantly assessing things to prevent things from happening. If it gets to the point of something going bad, if it gets to the point of the kidnapping, it's a completely different ballgame. The emphasis needs to be on avoidance, avoidance, avoidance. The trouble is, a lot of people will go and get kidnap and ransom insurance and hire some cheap bodyguards, and they think they're bulletproof. That could be the start of your problem.
before we end our conversation, if you can just briefly give a little bit of advice to people how to actually avoid being in certain situations. Doesn't really necessarily mean travel, but even in their own neighborhood, especially with the situation nowadays, with the global stress coming on, people are much more immune to being targeted and being involved in situations which they shouldn't be. Even, for example, like casual fights and all that can lead to different things as well.
Mm.
So, if there are certain advice how you can actually avoid situations like that.
Awareness. Be aware of what's going on around you and don't get involved in stupid confrontations, stupid problems. Don't get involved in I tell people don't get involved in other people's problems, but it's coming to the point where if you're within a community, the community, and this is something which is severely lacking in a lot of places, there's no community spirit anymore. There's no community values. If you're within a community, then the community should look out for each other. If they spot somebody suspicious in the neighborhood, and even if it's to do with somebody else's house, they should call the police, or there should be a plan in place of what to do. In some areas, in some countries, you call the police, they'll take forever to turn up. So maybe it might be better to call the neighbors to come and help you. So I think, and this is where in the US there's been a push on private policing, but In some places, private policing's not working because they're worse off than having regular police. If you've got, seriously. And again, if you're in an area where the police are not effective, when I was in South Africa a long, long time ago, many years ago, they had armed response services. And the armed response teams personnel were generally private security, were generally a lot better armed and a lot better motivated than the police and better paid. So the chances are they would be there first before the police turned up. The police would turn up to pick up the bodies, put it that way. So this is where I think from a community personal security perspective these days, you need to sit down and do the threat assessments, work out what the threats are, and work out how those problems can be minimalized. How can you up the security not only for your house, but also for your neighborhoods? Who within your community can help you? And I think that if you're living in an area, that is your best. If you're stable in an area, that's your best option. If you run a business in a business area, then the businesses should have their own security plan. Not just think we're going to hire a security guard and that's going to solve the problem. The businesses should be watching out for each other. And if something does go wrong, they're there to help each other in some ways, be it calling the police or doing something.
Thank you so much, Orlando. I really appreciate your time. I will also ask later on if you can share with me some of the links that if people want to know a little bit more about you and your the work that you are doing, and also if you can share some links if somebody like me who is a casual or normal person who's not even a celebrity, if there are certain courses that I can do just to be much more prepared in certain situations, that would be nice if you can share with.
What I'll do, and I'll pass on to you, I'll send you across the PDFs after this of some of my books.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I've got an array of books up. And again, it's written in simple form, so it's easy to understand. It's all applicable. But again, for most people, to put simple security procedures in place doesn't take much. It just takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of effort, and they can up their security level considerably. So I'll send you across the links. I'll send you across some copies of my books. And again, it doesn't take much. A lot of it is people willing to learn and willing to open their eyes to the actual threats and think about how they can minimize those threats.
I didn't ask, do you have your own personal course that you are doing for normal people?
I run an array of courses. At the moment, I'm taking a break from the courses, but we run close protection courses for bodyguards and also kidnap prevention courses, etc. But I'm taking over the next kidnap prevention courses is in Greece. I'm planning one in Greece in the next couple of months, next month.
Okay.
But I'm taking a break from the set courses, but I'm looking to get those up again towards the end of the year because I'm busy with other things at the moment.
Your website have all the information for those courses?
The Risk Inc. website's got the information up there. But again, it's as I said, I'm busy working on a few things at the moment. I'm working with one client especially, and I'm trying to finish a book still. Be finished in the next few months. So when that's done, I'll be getting back into the trainee perspective. Yeah.
I'll be sure to link the description in the description for the book when you finished it as well. I'll edit it and put it over there.
I told you last time I started in 2006, so hopefully it should be finished soon. It's only been
fingers crossed. Thank you so much,
years.
Orlando. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Bye, man. Take care. Cheers. Goodbye.
Thank you so much.